Hi, my name is David Gebhardt. I live in BC, Canada. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in May of 2017. This is the fourth video I've made, and it's been a long time coming, but I'm happy today that finally we've put the content together and we can cover the topics in greater detail that I've been looking forward to. This video deals with non-motor symptoms. It covers my memory problem and its resolution, my decision-making problem and its resolution, and my anxiety and the daily challenge to balance it. My Parkinson's disease is more centered around movement issues rather than the traditional tremors that you might notice in most people. So it creates a little bit of a different symptom set. The difficulty in presenting this topic was to present it without bias, which is really hard to do when it is about yourself, but I've tried to be as objective as possible to allow you to see into my life a little bit and understand the issues that are going on. This has been a very difficult topic to talk to with other people, even with ones that know me, because how do I explain something that seems to be really all in my head? And when it's all in your head, it begs the question of, is there anything wrong with you at all? I don't mean that to say negative things about people that I know, but sometimes the symptoms are so personal and they're about yourself that they're really difficult to explain. And when I first saw my neurologist, there was a lot of information in the office and in the waiting area that I was surprised to read about. Parkinson's disease can bring on a host of many different symptoms for all types of people. And because of the lack of dopamine and the change of dopamine in your brain, it can affect people in very different ways. So the reason that I make these videos is to just share as deeply as I can and as personally as I can the symptoms that have affected me. And the second reason is that there hasn't been a lot of personal stories and information that I've found since I've been going through Parkinson's disease. You know, there are a lot of good podcasts and there are a lot of good books, but I've found that hopefully through these videos I can add to the discussion surrounding this disease and just share with people that I know are going through similar things, and just give them a little bit of hope that even though these problems seem very overwhelming at times, there are solutions that they can use, and there are tips and tricks and tips supplied by, especially from the medical staff that I've met, that can really help you alleviate these symptoms and find ways to deal with them. So I'm hoping that I can offer a little bit of hope. But you know, if you're experiencing some of these symptoms or you're thinking that you're experiencing some of these symptoms, I suggest that you look to your medical team for advice and talk to your doctors, because I'm not a qualified practitioner and I'm not going to offer any medical advice. I just want to share some of the things that have happened to me and how they happened and how we found personal solutions to deal with them. So the first topic is my memory problem and its resolution. This was a very scary thing that happened to me. About a year after my diagnosis, I began to have problems remembering things. I had been taking some seminary courses part-time, and I started to have problems with memory retrieval and just remembering how to do certain tasks that I was doing at school. And then it began to transfer over to my work life a little bit. I began to have problems remembering job sites that I'd been to many times, or the steps to take to complete a task at work, and then it transferred over to my personal life as well. I began to remember, forget things at home. And one crazy thing that happened to me one day is I forgot how to unlock our car. And that's when my wife and I began to get very worried, and we thought we should talk to my neurologist. So every 6 months I go to see my neurologist, and we brought up the problem at our regularly scheduled visit, and he administered a standard memory test. And much to our dismay and my horror, I scored below normal. So somebody in their mid-40s has just had Parkinson's for a year, and they take a standard memory test, which was explained to me is written out of like a grade 5 level, and I'm not passing with a normal score. We began to get a little bit worried. So my neurologist referred me to a dementia specialist, who was at the same hospital. And since my neurologist was so concerned about my situation, I didn't have to wait very long to see the specialist. So we go into the office and we have like a big, like nearly an hour long question and answer period. And much to our relief, and we had a lot of trouble understanding this diagnosis, he said, "You don't have dementia, you don't have Alzheimer's, you don't have to worry. Your problem is that you're experiencing depression symptoms, and because of your sleep issues," and I was having a lot of trouble getting a good night's sleep. Like I was sleeping sometimes 2, 3, 4 hours a night and then continuing on with my daily life. He explained very thoroughly that a lack of proper sleep can really affect your memory very badly. So this was a very hard diagnosis to understand, and I have to make a distinction, which was made to be by my doctors, was that Parkinson's can bring on depression-like symptoms. It doesn't mean that you're depressed, but part of the depression symptoms is a problem with remembering things. So if you have, say, clinical depression, it can affect your memory quite largely. So that was a very hard thing to understand. And then the sleep. So I had no idea that sleep can affect your memory. So these two issues were solved through medications. I was prescribed an antidepressant for my depression-like symptoms. The first medication didn't work very well. It had too much of a sedative component in it. So I saw my family doctor, who prescribed me a medication I had taken a long time ago for an unrelated issue. And that seems to have settled down my depression symptoms quite a bit. And then I was prescribed a medication to help me sleep every night, and I take that every night. And now that I'm sleeping really well, and my depression symptoms are fairly well managed by the antidepressants, my memory has gotten a lot better. And I'm just checking my notes here. Oh, the other reason that my neurologist and the specialist explained to me that I didn't have dementia or a Parkinson-like symptom like Lewy body disease was that I was able to learn new things. What I did was I studied online and read into how do you beat the standard memory test. And one of the big things was that at the beginning of it, they ask you 3 things. So they might ask you to remember an animal, a color, and a fruit or a vegetable. And then they ask you all the other questions. And at the end, I'm like, okay, I've identified these 3 things, and I can see certain things in the office, like the color of the wall or what's on the desk or what's in a picture. And boom, I could remember the 3 things. Though the big thing described to me by my neurologist and the specialist was that if you can go back and beat the memory test, you definitely don't have dementia or you don't have a memory problem, because you wouldn't learn you wouldn't even remember having the test. So although these 2 issues were very hard to understand, I had to, and my wife had to, accept the fact that no, I'm fine, and that's how my memory problem was taken care of. So the second topic is my decision-making issue and how it was resolved. So around the same time as my memory started to have problems, I also started to have problems making decisions. And basically it was in 3 areas of my life. The first big problem was getting ready for work in the morning. The second problem was decisions making at work. And the third problem was talking about and how to plan for the future life decisions that this illness would eventually bring. So the biggest problem at home was making decisions like getting dressed in the morning, what to have for breakfast, how to get out to work on time. So my neurologist and the specialist recommended tricks and tips on how to, because it was explained to me dopamine affects your brain in so many different ways that even though I was able to make decisions on a regular basis prior to having this condition, because of the way my brain has changed just a little bit, sometimes you have to relearn certain things. So You can imagine how embarrassing this was and how like juvenile of a process it would be to, okay, I have to decide this morning before I get up, I'm going to have this for breakfast, I'm going to wear these clothes, and I'm going to get out to work on a certain time. So break my morning up into 3 small phases, and then the decisions don't become so difficult. At work, it was a little bit more complex because part of my job is to organize a lot of things in the morning, get other people out the door, and then concentrate on my jobs for the day. So this process became very difficult. It's like, oh, I don't know what to send other people out to do. I don't know what to do myself, and I'm having problems prioritizing my daily work schedule, and especially getting to a job and like, okay, what do I do first to solve the problem? How do I move on to the next step? So my doctor suggested, okay, well, you need to break your day down into small tasks, and you also need to limit interruptions in your workday. So with help and support at work, I was shown again how to do these certain tasks and how to prioritize things, but also my daily interruptions were eliminated. So unless it was like an urgent situation, everything was moved to the next day. Like if something could wait, I wouldn't get a text or an email or a call. It was just put on my desk and I would deal with it the following morning. And that helped quite a bit in solving my decision-making problem at work. And then at home, instead of just worrying about, oh my goodness, I have Parkinson's, it's going to cause all these problems in the future, we don't need to solve these problems today. We can break them down into small parts and deal with them on a future basis. So it may sound very simple, but it was actually a very difficult thing to deal with because, oh, I've got my memory issue, I'm having problems making decisions, what's going on with me? So my memory problems were, mostly solved with medications, but my decision-making problem was solved in a different way, just relearning how to do what you've always done, but to do it in a different way, almost a more organized way, to get to the same end result, and also with help and support from people in my life, which I was very thankful for. Okay, so my third topic is my anxiety and the daily challenge to balance it. So this is the most difficult topic to discuss because this is the main one that has caused a big delay in this video, but it's also a very important one, and one very dear to me because it's been the hardest to deal with and it's been the hardest to understand, and it's also been the most difficult to explain to other people and also to share other people, because you look at me in this video and I look good, but sometimes I don't feel good. And also, as a man in his mid-40s, how can something so insignificant, such as anxiety, bring my life to basically sometimes a grinding halt? And that's been the biggest struggle. So about a year after my diagnosis with Parkinson's, I began to feel anxious and unsettled, and I would have problems in public settings and group situations, and it became very overwhelming. I hadn't had a lot of experience with anxiety before this. I had known some people with anxiety, and I would be like, why aren't they here? Why aren't they coming out? Why aren't I seeing them? And they would say, well, I'm having a lot of anxiety, I can't come. I would be like, are they avoiding me? I just didn't understand. So as time moved on into the second year, it came on stronger. We found that certain situations would amplify the anxiety, such as crowds, public places, enclosed spaces, basically group settings became very difficult, and which was a big loss for me because I'm a very social person. I like outings. I like being around people, and not being able to do those things was very difficult. So this is something I found through talking to other people online and also researching into, was that anxiety is actually very common in people with Parkinson's. And we have found some ways to help me deal with the anxiety. But talking about this, I've made a strong priority because I know that through the information at the neurologist's office, books I've read, going online on Facebook and support groups, a lot of people with Parkinson's disease do suffer from extreme anxiety. And I want other people with Parkinson's to know that there is a lot of help available. There are a lot of things you can do to help manage your anxiety. And that's the main reason I wanted to talk about this. But it's taken a long time to get my anxiety to a manageable level to feel comfortable enough to talk about it in a public setting. Because at times it's very embarrassing as a strong grown-up man like myself to deal with it. So I'm just going to check my notes again. So the anxiety hasn't been fully solved, but it's to a point now where I can manage it. And how I deal with the situations that increase the anxiety is I've had to make some modifications. So let's say like a crowded store is hard to deal with. Like if there's a lot of people and it's very loud in a store, that's a very hard place to be because that amplifies my anxiety. So what we've done is change my shopping hours. Restaurants that are really loud and noisy are hard to deal with. So sometimes my wife and I will order out, or we'll go to the restaurant when we know it's quieter. I'm thankful at church because that's a very large setting, but my church broadcasts on Facebook Live, which I'm very grateful for, so I can still partake at church and I get texts from people. So with the anxiety, even though it's not the perfect situation, there are ways that you can modify what you've always done before to continue to do those things, but you're just doing them in a different setting. And the doctors have told me, you need to manage your anxiety to keep it under control so your stress doesn't get too high. And we don't want to increase your medications because if I'm going to receive more medications for the anxiety, there's going to be a larger sedative component, and I want to continue to live actively and enjoy life the best that I can. I'm just going to check my notes one more time. So the last comment I would have regarding anxiety is that I encourage you to look at different ways that you can deal with it and talk to others around you, because there is a lot of help and support out there for the anxiety. So in this video, we've looked at my memory problem and its resolution, my decision-making problem and its resolution, and my anxiety and the daily challenge to balance it. So if you've enjoyed this video, I encourage you to, and if you've thought, hey, I think I have some of these symptoms that Dave has, I encourage you to talk to your medical team and seek advice there. And I also want to say I really appreciate you watching this, and I've recently had a hernia operation, so I'm hoping that there is enough information there to put out a good video about my situation. With this channel, it's never been my goal to put out like daily or weekly videos. My goal would be maximum one video per month, because I want to cover the content as best as that I can to explain to you what's going on, and that's one of the reasons I don't put out videos very often. If you feel that this video has caused you to want to leave a comment, please do. I'll do my best to respond to it, but I want to thank you for watching and sharing with me, and I hope that you can get all the help you need with your Parkinson's journey. Thank you.